So this past weekend we had the Nate Diaz and Jake Paul boxing match. And if you've been following my channel, people, you'll know that I had this fight pegged. I knew how it was going to go down since the beginning. First of all, I feel like you guys should follow this channel. You should subscribe to this channel, like, comment, all that beautiful stuff, because I consistently get these things correct. And I consistently get these things correct with good reason. And so let's get right into it. A lot of you are surprised by how this Nate Diaz and Jake Paul boxing match went down, and I'm not at all. I think I posted this fight prediction maybe about a month ago, and I saw it coming. And it may seem crazy that I had Jake Paul winning this fight, but it's not crazy at all, because a lot of you can't separate boxing from MMA. The fact is that boxing, MMA, like if we're talking about MMA and the aspect of boxing within MMA, it's a much different factor than when we're talking about pure boxers. And Jake Paul isn't, the top of the heap when it comes to boxers. He's not an elite boxer. Right now, currently, Jake Paul's at about an average amateur boxing level. But what Jake Paul also has over Nate Diaz is the youth, like I've previously spoken of. He does have 3 years worth of boxing training under his belt at this point. He's been working with pretty solid individuals when it comes to the boxing world. He has good size on him, good power, and he may not be the most skillful of boxers, and he's not. He's by no means the most skillful of boxers, but he had an edge over Nate Diaz and all of the other MMA boxers that we've seen. That's why the loss that Jake Paul has under his belt is with somebody who has the same attributes as Jake Paul in regards to the power, the youth, the skill set in boxing. However, Tommy Fury is a better boxer. And so when you put all of those things into account, and Jake Paul went against an actual boxer who had the youth, had the power, had the athleticism, he lost. But all of the fighters that Jake Paul has been beating have been non-pure boxers, some of which have never boxed, some of which who have never been in an actual boxing match. And so you have to take that into account. And Jake Paul has been fighting a lot of ideal matchups. And this doesn't take anything away from Nate Diaz, who I think is a phenomenal MMA fighter. This doesn't take anything away from, Tyron Woodley, who I think was at one point in time a phenomenal MMA fighter. You look at Ben Askren, who's a great grappler, great jiu-jitsu guy, but I think that any amateur boxer could beat those gentlemen in a boxing match. We're talking about Ben Askren. If you're an amateur boxer, you're probably going to beat Ben Askren. You're probably going to beat Tyron Woodley. You're probably going to beat Nate Diaz. If you step into an MMA environment, now we're talking something completely different. And I think that a lot of people, like I said, have a hard time separating the two. And it's a completely different style matchup. When it comes to boxers, they even their stance is different. Their concerns within the match is different. They have to worry about right hand and left hand, and what those two ligaments can do. In MMA, you have to worry about the left hand, the right foot, the left foot. You have to worry about takedowns, chokes. You have to worry about arm bars and single leg takedowns and harai goshis and double legs and all kinds of things. You're worrying about the clinch game. You're worrying about knees, elbows. There is a whole different spectrum of fighting. And so that's why I'm not surprised, because boxers are able to center their fighting styles around these two right here. And so you have to take that into account every time that Jake Paul steps into the boxing ring against non-boxers. And so I'm not surprised by this, but by that outcome. I saw that happening. I called it, people. I called it. I said that Jake Paul had a good chance of knocking down Nate Diaz, but the chances of him knocking out Nate Diaz weren't likely. I had Jake Paul winning in this matchup because of the factors that we saw in this boxing match. I really do think that Jake Paul is getting even better at boxing. Is he at a professional boxing level yet? No, I don't believe so. But I think he's getting there and he's getting better, and you have to give props where props is due. And he's saying that he wants to fight Nate Diaz next in an MMA match, and I think that that's a bad call out. I do think that when it comes to the MMA circuit, Nate Diaz will have the advantage in that matchup, unless Jake Paul has been working on some things that he's just never been bringing to attention to people. But even so, I think that Nate Diaz's ability to grapple, to clinch, his jiu-jitsu level, that's a hard thing to make up for. And so if they were to fight, I would have Nate Diaz winning in an MMA match. I really do think that Jake Paul at this point in time should continue to have these call-outs. I mean, honestly, his next best bet would probably be somebody like a Conor McGregor figure in the boxing world. I think Jake Paul should hold off on the MMA circuit until he gets more grappling under his belt. But for the most part, Jake Paul's been having success because of the reasons that I've previously spoken of. And so I think we're going to continue to see these kinds of wins from Jake Paul. And I don't have much to say. I don't have much else to say about it. I know KSI was talking about what he saw from Jake Paul, and I don't know. I think a lot of these YouTube boxers have brought a lot of attention to boxing. Now, has it been good for boxing? Has it been bad for boxing? I think it's been good as far as bringing attention back to the platform of boxing. However, I think it's been bad because it's been devaluing. It's been lowering the value of what it means to be an elite boxer to the common fan. And so I think that it's been putting a fire under what it means to be a professional boxer. And I think the boxers that are currently legit, the boxers that are currently professional, the big names, need to step up a bit. And I think seeing fights like, Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, we need to continue to see the elites of the elites, and they need to be better people at organizing their fights. They need to be better at promoting their own fights. They need to be better at these kinds of things, at bringing attention to boxing themselves, but not under the YouTube spotlight. And I think that would help a lot. I think that would help leverage off of what Jake Paul is doing, and that is bringing attention back to boxing. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this take. It took me a while to come out with a video about this because I wanted to see what people had to say about this, and I think a lot of people have gotten it wrong. I think they tend to mesh together what MMA and boxing is. And when we're talking about pure boxing and we're talking about pure MMA, those two things don't really relate. You just have to worry about different things. And so, hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.